What happens when a CEO, hidden behind his polished image, steps into one of his own diners and sees the reality behind every forced smile? Jacob Reed, the self-made CEO of a small diner chain with 13 locations, had built his business from the ground up over the past decade. Known for a warm, family-friendly atmosphere, his diners once buzzed with genuine hospitality. Lately, however, things had taken a troubling turn. Customer complaints about sluggish service and curt, unfriendly staff were mounting, and employee turnover had reached an all-time high. While regional managers assured him that all was well, the reports didn't match the uneasy whispers he kept hearing. Frustrated and determined to uncover the truth, Jacob decided to go undercover at one of his suburban locations, a diner 2 hours away from his corporate office where recognition would be unlikely. To blend in, he scrapped his tailored suits in favor of a worn-out hoodie, jeans, and thick-rimmed glasses. He even let his beard grow scruffy, transforming himself into a nondescript regular rather than the pristine executive featured on his company website. At lunchtime, Jacob walked into the bustling diner, where the atmosphere was a mix of chattering customers and the clatter of dishes. The dining room, although clean, looked a little tired. The booths showed signs of wear, and the overall charm had faded from the warm, welcoming space he had envisioned when he first launched his business. A young waitress named Megan, her name tag barely catching the light, greeted him with a smile that felt forced and a bit weary. "Hi there. Welcome," she said cheerily, though there was a hesitation in her tone that Jacob couldn't ignore. "Just coffee? Thanks," Jacob replied, settling into a booth near the window. As Megan hurried off to attend to other tables, Jacob observed her as she navigated the floor, juggling orders, refilling drinks, and picking up dishes from the kitchen with practiced efficiency. It was clear she was overworked, yet she masked her exhaustion behind a polite smile. Something about the tired bags under her eyes and the slight slump of her shoulders caught Jacob's attention. Before long, Jacob ordered a burger and fries. As Megan jotted down his order, a booming voice erupted from the kitchen. "What's taking so long, Megan? You're falling behind." The voice belonged to a stout, middle-aged man wearing a stained apron, a shift manager, Jacob assumed. Megan flinched at the harsh tone, then quickly responded, "Coming right up." Although she managed to serve his order, her eyes betrayed a deeper strain, and Jacob felt his stomach twist in dismay. Between bites of his burger, Jacob overheard snippets of conversation from nearby tables. A family grumbling about the delay, teenagers whispering about the rudeness of the kitchen manager. The atmosphere was far from the friendly diner experience Jacob had built his brand on. When Megan returned with his meal, she apologized softly for the wait. "I'm sorry about that," she murmured, avoiding eye contact. Jacob offered a small, encouraging smile. "It's all right. You're doing great," even as he noted the tremor in her voice. But then, an unmistakable sound reached his ears. A quiet, pained sob coming from behind the closed kitchen door. Jacob's fork froze midway to his mouth. The sound grew, and he soon realized it was Megan crying. Unable to ignore it any longer, he rose from his seat and moved toward the kitchen, his concern overriding his disguise. Peering through the slightly ajar door, Jacob saw Megan standing with trembling hands, wiping tears with the back of her sleeve. Over her, the manager, Rick, loomed, arms crossed, his face twisted in frustration and indifference. Two cooks nearby avoided eye contact, their discomfort palpable. Jacob's heart pounded as he stepped inside, his calm voice belying the anger within. "Is something wrong here?" he asked. Rick's face registered surprise and then defiance as he replied, "Just a little miscommunication. That's all." Megan, her voice barely a whisper, apologized again. "I'm sorry." I haven't had a break in 6 hours. I'm trying my best. But Rick cut her off sharply. If you can't handle the pressure, maybe this isn't the job for you. We don't have time for excuses around here. Jacob's jaw tightened. This wasn't the respectful, supportive environment he had envisioned when he built his diner chain. She looks like she needs a break, Jacob stated firmly. Why don't you let her sit for a few minutes? Rick scoffed. We're short-staffed. There's no time for breaks during the rush. Jacob's eyes narrowed. There's always time to treat people with respect. He countered evenly, his tone leaving no room for argument. A wiry young cook, Connor, who had been silently working in the background, spoke up timidly. Megan's been non-stop since she clocked in. If she doesn't get a break soon, she'll burn out. We're all suffering because of how things are run here. Rick shot him a sharp look, but Jacob held his gaze steadily. You might want to reconsider how you're treating your staff. Jacob continued, voice low and resolute. If I were running this diner, this behavior wouldn't be tolerated. Unable to hide his frustration any longer, Rick tried to protest, but Jacob raised his hand to silence him. Instead of revealing his true identity, Jacob calmly announced, I think Megan needs a break. Please let her have 5 minutes. Before Rick could retort, Megan's tear-streaked face looked up at Jacob with a mixture of confusion and relief. Thank you, she whispered, and hurried away. Jacob then returned to his booth and resumed his meal, though his mind was racing. He discreetly took notes on his phone, documenting Rick's behavior, Megan's exhaustion, and the low murmurs from customers. His disguise had served its purpose long enough, and now he was ready to uncover the full extent of the problems in his own diner. After finishing his meal, Jacob excused himself and stepped out to make a call. Janet, clear my schedule for tomorrow. I need all the employee files, performance reviews, and any reports from this location, he said in a measured tone. His assistant's quick reply confirmed his suspicions. Things were much worse than the glossy reports indicated. Got it, Jacob. I'll have everything ready. Determined to take action, Jacob returned the next morning to the diner, once again donning his scruffy disguise but carrying a small notebook and a renewed sense of purpose. The early shift was quieter, allowing him to observe without the chaos of the lunch rush. Megan was already on the floor, moving deliberately but with a palpable weariness. Connor was in the kitchen, preparing ingredients with focused determination. Rick was nowhere in sight, but the lingering tension was evident in the subdued conversations and careful glances exchanged among the staff. After a short while, as the diner began to fill with the buzz of the morning crowd, Jacob found a moment to speak with Megan. Hey, Megan, do you have a minute? He asked gently as she passed with a coffee pot. Startled, she hesitated before nodding. They stepped aside into a quieter corner of the diner. How long have you been working here? Jacob inquired softly. Megan blinked, then answered about 8 months. Jacob leaned in slightly. It seems like you're carrying a heavy burden. Is it always this busy? How's everything going for you? Megan's eyes darted nervously toward the kitchen. It's not just the customers. It's everything. Rick, he's always on our case. It makes it hard to do my job properly. Her voice trailed off, laden with frustration and exhaustion. Before Jacob could press further, the kitchen door swung open, and Rick strode out, barking orders at a visibly tense Connor. Jacob's expression hardened. What's your name, Rick? He demanded as he approached the manager. Rick, taken aback by the interruption, replied defensively, Rick. And who are you to come in here and tell me how to run my shift? Jacob didn't wait for an answer. How long have you been the manager here? He asked calmly. About 2 years, Rick answered, arms folded. Jacob's tone grew firm. In those 2 years, you've created a toxic environment for your staff. Your harsh words, your refusal to let them take even a short break. This isn't acceptable. If I were in charge, I'd treat people with respect and ensure they're valued. Rick attempted to argue, but Jacob cut him off. I own this diner and the other 13, and I built this business on the foundation of respect, hard work, and community. You're not upholding those values, and I won't stand for it any longer. With those words hanging in the air, Rick's bravado crumbled. Jacob motioned for him to follow him to the back office. Once inside, Jacob fixed Rick with an unyielding stare. "You're fired, effective immediately," he declared, his voice leaving no room for negotiation. Rick's protest was weak and faltering as he was escorted out of the office by security, his authority evaporating with every step he took away from the diner. Returning to the dining area, Jacob addressed the remaining staff. "Thank you all for your hard work today," he said, his voice steady and sincere. "Things are going to change around here. From this moment on, we will treat every member of this team with the respect they deserve." His eyes swept over Megan and Connor, whose expressions mixed shock with a glimmer of hope. "Please stay after your shift. I'd like to speak with you both." After the lunch rush subsided, Jacob gathered Megan and Connor in a quiet booth. "I appreciate everything you've done to keep this place running," he began. "I wasn't aware of how dire the situation had become. I trusted the reports and didn't see what was really happening on the floor. I built Reed's Diner to be a community, not a pressure cooker where staff are overworked and mistreated." Megan, still looking tired but more willing to open up, replied, "It's been really hard. I do love working here, and I love our customers, but it sometimes feels like no one really cares about you." Jacob nodded, taking in her words with empathy. "That stops now. I'm going to make some changes. First, I'm bringing in a new manager, someone experienced who understands how to lead with respect. In the meantime, I'll be overseeing operations here personally until we get things back on track." He continued, "We're also revisiting our staffing strategy. No more being short-staffed during the busy periods. We'll hire more people, and I'll make sure everyone gets the breaks they need. Megan, your dedication has not gone unnoticed. I'm awarding you a significant pay raise. And Connor, your quiet leadership has been remarkable. I'm promoting you to assistant manager, effective immediately." Both Megan and Connor looked stunned. Megan's eyes shimmered with gratitude while Connor's face showed a mix of shock and relief. "Thank you, Jacob," Megan whispered, barely able to contain her emotion. "And thank you, Connor," Jacob added, offering a warm smile. "I want you both to know that this diner matters not just for the profits, but for the people who make it what it is." In the days and weeks that followed, real change began at Reed's Diner. Jacob kept his word, spending long hours on the floor, listening to feedback, and personally interviewing candidates for the new management role. Eventually, he hired Denise, a manager whose blend of experience and empathy quickly earned the trust of the staff. With additional hires easing the workload and proper breaks finally implemented, the atmosphere in the diner transformed noticeably. Customers began to comment on the improved service, and the warm, welcoming vibe returned. One afternoon, as Jacob prepared to leave for his corporate office, Megan stopped him by the door. "Hey," she said softly, a genuine smile on her face. "This place feels different now. It actually feels like someone cares." Jacob's heart swelled with pride as he replied, "It does matter, and so do you." Walking to his car that day, Jacob reflected on his journey from disguised customer to decisive leader. He'd learned that true leadership wasn't about maintaining distance behind an office desk or relying solely on spreadsheets. It was about being present, listening to the voices on the floor, and taking bold action when things went wrong. Reed's Diner was no longer just a business. It was a community, and its strength lay in the dignity and respect afforded to every individual. Thank you for watching this story unfold. If you found this narrative as eye-opening as it is inspiring, please like, share, and subscribe for more tales of transformation and truth. Turn on the notification bell and join us again as we reveal how sometimes the most unassuming people can dismantle an old order and build a brighter future.